Welcome to the future. This is Ina Braxton from the Digital Future Lab, and you're listening to our weekly DFL podcast, where we cover the state of the gaming industry, technology, and diversity. Here are your hosts, Samantha Riley and Jesus Govella.
Hi, and welcome to the DFL podcast. I'm Jesus.
And I'm Samantha.
And today we'll be talking about stereotypes in video games.
Yes, this is a topic that we've had on our list for a while, so we definitely wanted to make an episode about this. And I think we'll just start with the most common one that we see in a lot of games, which is where there's a princess or some type of female character who is kidnapped, and then the hero has to come save her, and usually the hero is a male, and he comes and saves the princess, and he wins her heart. Mm-hmm. So, how do we feel about that?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's been used way too much. It's very, very common, especially in the older games. I feel like most of any plot any older games had was exactly that: a princess getting kidnapped, and then you, the player, have to rescue her.
Right. I think of like Mario Kart with Princess Peach. Mm-hmm. I think in some of the later versions, but in the original Mario games, it was like you could never play as Princess Peach. She was always like the prize. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting because I don't think as a kid I really thought that was weird. It was just kind of how it is. I never realized that is, if the roles were switched, if the princess was the main, protagonist? Uh-huh. And then, we had to go save Mario and find him at the end. I think all of us as little kids would be questioning it. We would think that's pretty weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially since a lot of movies as well do that.
Right. Uh-huh. Like Star Wars.
Yep.
A lot of superhero movies are getting better about it, I think.
Yeah.
But if we trace back to, Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, mm-hmm. It's always save the girl, win the girl.
Yeah. And Zelda also does that a lot too. Mm-hmm. Even though the games are named after her, she doesn't really make much of an appearance in most of the games.
It seems like Kingdom Hearts, there's a lot of female characters, aren't there?
Yeah, there's a good amount.
I don't know that game too much, but how are the females in there portrayed? Is it the same, similar, the guy wins the girl? Is it like that?
For the main character and his love interest, Sora and Kairi, it's pretty much like that. But there's one in particular. Her name's Aqua, and you actually play as her. And I think she's done really well. She's actually pretty cool.
Good. Okay, mm-hmm. That's good to hear. Because I've seen pictures of that games, and even when you see the, I guess you would call this the thumbnail, I don't know, mm-hmm. or where people advertise the games, it's normally the male characters that get shown in mm-hmm. the front, and then maybe the females in the back. She's hidden away, she's in the castle, she's far away. You can't see her. She's this untouched, mysterious thing. Whereas I feel now maybe some other games, I haven't played Kingdom Hearts, but I've seen their screenshots and stuff, and it seems they show all the characters on the screen, and I like that. Mm-hmm. It's very diverse, it seems like.
Yeah, and they've been getting a little better about not having a damsel in distress mm-hmm. as much, but still sometimes they still fall short. In the most recent Kingdom Hearts, they made Kairi more of a character. They actually gave her, she actually fights along with Sora a little bit towards the end, but she still ends up having to be saved.
So I found this article that I'm going off of where it's called the 15 most stereotypical characters in video games, and we're just going to talk about that. So we already covered the first one, which is basically just Mario, how he's portrayed as this Italian American, and he says the words what does he say?
Mamma mia, let's go.
Yeah. And I think that's really common with the whole portraying a certain look to an accent, and the whole being what does he do? Is he a plumber?
Yeah, he's supposed to be a plumber from Brooklyn.
And he's Italian.
Yeah.
And he says "Mamma Mia" a lot. But then there's also a lot of other stereotypes. Okay, there's 15 on here, so I'm just gonna choose the ones that I feel like I connect with the most or I've seen. Okay, this might get a little racy here. One of these is apparently there's a stereotype of transgender hookers. Have you seen this in games?
Not too much. This is mainly in fighting games. I don't play too many of those. The main one they're talking about here is Poison from Final Fight, Tekken, and Street Fighter.
And then another big stereotype is also women who can fight. And then the women who can usually fight are usually half naked. They're sometimes wearing like little to no clothing or wearing just some high heels, and they have very extravagant body parts.
Yeah, that's very common in pretty much all games. Any female you can play as or fight with, usually their outfits are pretty revealing or not conventional, like some armor in some games, like that no one would wear that to actually protect themselves.
That's so interesting, because all the guys in the games, you know, they're wearing all these like big protective gear, but if you're actually to wear that to fight, the girls, I mean they're not gonna survive.
Yeah.
But I know I also see them like movies, like all the female superheroes are made to look really sexy and like kind of like what's the word? Like they want to seem like untouchable and like really mysterious, but in like a very sexy way. So I think of, what's her name? Black Widow?
Yep.
Yeah, or Captain Marvel. Like all of them, like they have like this whole aura about them. And I mean, obviously like the movie makers wanted it to look like that, but it with like Tony Stark, it's like he's like powerful, you know. I don't think people are watching it and like they're not thinking about it the same way.
Yeah, he's not wearing a skin-tight suit.
Yeah. I mean, do we think that's bad? Like, what would you do to change it? Because I feel like we're just kind of used to it. Like, this is just how it is. Like, is there a problem with that? Like, is there something that should be different? Because I think we can also argue that, I mean, in the Avengers series, everyone's talking about Captain, what's his name? What's Captain America and his butt?
Oh, yeah.
You know? I mean, what is that saying about him? Like, he's kind of wearing, like, a tight suit. So is that the same thing? Like, they're putting Black Widow in, like, a tight bodysuit. But then they're also portraying, like, the male characters as, like, super heroic and desirable and, like, strong. So I think it does go both ways.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially with Captain America, yeah. Especially in his own movie, when he became Captain America through the serum they gave him. He used to be like this skinny, like small white guy, and then he's just...
I mean, he's still white.
Oh, yeah. You know, kind of like a more nerdy-ish.
Yeah, and it just tells us, like, that type of body type, you know, and that build is desirable. And then, you know, it gave him confidence. Like, it didn't just give him the outer look, it gave him, like, this inner persona, too. Like, all of a sudden he's glowing because he looks this way.
Yeah. Then I'll move on to a point, even with games that have female protagonists, they can still portray them in, like, a sexual way. Sort of like the early Lara Croft games. Those were very revealing of her. She had a completely different, like, personality than she does now. Like, she was supposed to be, or she was this like tank top wearing short shorts, wearing adventurer going through the jungle, getting covered in mud and shooting whatever there was out there. But now they toned that down a lot.
I mean, even like her voice, like how she responds to things, and I don't know. It's almost like she's this adventurer, but at the same time, like, oh, she's like sweet and innocent, like. But then, yeah, I think because you can even Google like before and after pictures, and it's really crazy, like a 10-year difference, how much they've changed. Because I'm sure people don't want to see that.
Yeah. And also, this something similar goes with Samus Aran from the Metroid series. She was actually one of the first female protagonists ever in gaming. But you didn't. What's interesting about that is through the first game, you had no idea you were playing as a woman until the end when she took her helmet off, and then everyone's like, "Whoa."
Interesting.
This is interesting. We've never seen anything like that before.
So how does that change the game experience then?
Yeah, it really didn't, but everyone was surprised to know they were playing as a woman, because everyone thought they were playing as a guy.
Yeah. Well, what about if a woman's playing the game?
Oh, yeah. I think back then, even if you were a woman playing a game, you would still assume the main character is male.
So that's just like, that's our own biases. Like, we're going into this assuming that the main character is always a guy, and then once it's a woman, we're all shocked. So, like, that just tells you, like, what we're so programmed to think. Like, men are the protagonists, they're the heroes. And then as soon as it changes, everyone reacts kind of weird because it's different. We're not used to it.
Yeah. And then when she, in the later games, when she takes her whole suit off and shows the Zero suit, it's more sexualized and, skin tight and stuff like that. So even in games that do, like, pioneer like gender equality and stuff like that, they can still go the wrong way, sort of.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of crossover with how certain people, certain races, and like female or male are portrayed in not just games, but also just like all types of media, movies too. And like, I think aren't there some games where you can switch between what player you are?
Yeah, there's some games where you can make your own character, and it can be male or female.
I like that, because I remember like playing Mario Kart sometimes, like as a kid, and I would always choose to be Princess Peach because she was one of the only females, and like I wanted to play her. I didn't want to be Luigi or someone else. Like, I wanted to be Princess Peach, and like I like that I get to choose. Like, I don't want to have to play as a male character if I identify as a female. Like, I want to play as a female character.
Yeah, a lot of games are doing that now, where if you're not playing as like a set character, and the one you can make by yourself, you can choose whatever gender you want and whatever look you want.
What's this last thing?
Oh, that's just more of the video game side of things. Now we'll get into some stereotypes for FPS games, first-person shooters. A few of the ones I've noticed is that in those games, typically everyone suddenly knows how to handle a gun. Like, everybody knows how to fire one effectively, and everyone knows how to reload every single gun. And that seems a little weird. I don't think absolutely everybody you come across in some of those games would know how to handle a gun, but yet they get thrown one and they know exactly what to do. It's sort of like a plot thing. It's just like whatever.
So are there some games where people don't know how to handle the gun?
Yeah, sometimes.
You have to learn.
Not the player themselves, like people, like non-player characters you interact with.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. It's like you're going through this village, and the village folk want to help you, so you throw them a gun, and then you don't say anything about how to use it, and they just suddenly know how to use it, and help you.
Oh, doesn't that kind of add to the fantasy of it? Because like in an ideal world, everybody would be able to know how to use a gun, and you wouldn't need to tell them anything.
Right. Yeah. That's. I know they mainly do that because it's streamlined. Like no one wants to actually sit there and talk to them about how to handle the gun, but kind of. Yeah, it does kind of play to the fantasy side of those games.
So what do you guys think about these stereotypes? And we probably missed a few because I'm sure there's a lot more than we can mention. There's even stereotypes we probably don't even realize are in games, but they still are. So we want this to be a discussion, an open discussion about just what we see and like what, we're basically filtered to think and assume about games just from childhood to now, and how the evolution of games have changed over the years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more stereotypes that could be talked about, from more on gender, more on race, stuff like that. But thanks for listening. If you have any of your own, comment down below. And that's it.
Yep, tune in next week.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our discussion. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Digital Future Lab, and on Twitter at DFL_studios. Tune in next time for more on games, technology, and diversity.